Hey everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode of the Dale Jr. Download, and it's Tuesday, so it's Dirty Air. And a lot happened this past weekend at Sonoma, a lot happening in the sport of NASCAR and motorsports in general, in our own lives, and we're going to cover it. Let's get started. The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. All right, back in the Bojangles studio. Well, I'm not in the Bojangles studio, but the rest of the team is. Andrew, Curlin, Dalton, those guys are back at the Bojangles studio, and I'm still hanging out with my family on this summer vacation, traveling back and forth, and I'm coming back into town to see you guys here in a couple days, man. You guys getting excited?
Oh, yeah.
I've
been counting down the days.
We're looking forward to it.
A quick thank you to today's Dirty Air sponsor, Tire Pros. Just the other day, I saw one of their mobile vans over at the race shop helping a teammate get their tires changed. The convenience, man, it's unmatched. Find a van near you at TirePros.com. So let's see, we had a lot happening this past weekend in Sonoma, and was a very exciting race. I guess we could dive right into that if you want to.
Yeah, just what's your initial reaction from Sonoma?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had all this complaining about the repave, and I guess the track tore up a little bit during some testing, and there was a bunch of nonsense on social media about that.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus Smith and his team took this is before we went to Wilkesboro. Everybody was like, "Oh, they're cheap and they're cutting corners. Wilkesboro's going to be a disaster." So we go to Wilkesboro, had probably the best short track race as far as the racetrack and how wide it was and how racy it was. The best short track race that the next gen cars ever had. And then we went to Sonoma and didn't have any real issues with the surface of the racetrack. And so I know we all kind of forgot about that, but that was pretty hot and heavy there for a while. So I'm thankful that we got out the other end of that race with not only the surface intact, but the race was great. The race was exciting. There was some cautions, more cautions than I expected because when you're racing, I think Denny talked about this on his show, on a new surface, you kind of rubber in the preferred lane, which is really only one lane at a road course, and if you get off that lane, it's either very dirty or there's no grip. And so, drivers are pushing real hard on those restarts, trying not to lose positions, trying to take advantage of guys that are getting themselves in trouble and getting offline. And things would, people would get put in bad situations that would end up creating a yellow or creating a caution. We saw mistakes contact cautions, and cautions have restarts that deliver more of the same. So we had a great battle toward the end, which was good. Some drama with the fuel on the 19 car. So even if Martin does hold off the 5, I think he does win the race, right? But I was pretty happy with it. Had some different strategies. Teams electing to stay out on the racetrack and keep track position. Other teams trying to get the fuel in the car so they could have a unique strategy toward the end. And the tires on the 5, made the difference. I think he drives up there and wins the race, and due to their strategy and. So that was cool. Had some fireworks right at the end of the race with Ross getting into Kyle Busch. Looks like from on board that NASCAR posted on Twitter that Ross was quite a ways back in that braking zone downhill into 4. It's a downhill right-hander. When you charge that braking zone. In the old cars, you wheel hop. In this car, you can slide the rear brakes and slide the rear tires. Lock up the rear brakes. But it's downhill, and so as you really try to get more or try to go further and get on the brakes really, really hard, the car's trying to tip over. really. So the rear tires are trying to come off the ground, and the further you push it, the more that happens, and so that's when you get the rear lockup, and it's kind of what happened with Ross. He moved over to try to get to the inside. He wants to be able to get to the inside of Kyle before the apex, and Kyle also broke into the corner really deep, so they get into the corner relatively. Ross isn't in position, so he knew right in that moment that he was in trouble, and just slid the rear tires and wiped the 8 out. But
was that an accident? Was it accidental?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. You didn't think it was accident?
I don't know. Just like knowing Ross and his history, like I thought,
No, you could,
DVC's like the don't give a tours back, and it started with this. You don't think so?
No, I don't agree with that. I think that could Ross have avoided that? Yes. Could Ross have realized as soon as they both get into the brake pedal? I think there's a moment where you can go, all right, Kyle is going to equal me into this braking zone. And you can tell that really quickly. And you can say, okay, I'm not going to get the spot here. So I don't know if he had that choice or not, but he didn't run into the 8 on purpose. You see him swing the back. You see the back step out. He corrects into the 8, and then he's like, at that point, I gotta go. Sorry this is happening to you, Kyle Busch, but I've got to take care of the rest of my lap. And then the rest of his lap we saw as well on the I think it was NASCAR tweeted out the in-car of Chase Elliott down into turn 11. I think it was really hard to tell, but we know that Ross is a blocking SOB. Ross will block, and we love that, right? We love that about Ross. We don't want Ross to change. We love this. We don't get none of this without Ross.
I want more of it.
Yeah, I do too. I like it. I'm not saying Ross needs to stop. But it looks like now when they get into the braking zone in turn 11, it looked like Chase goes right to try to outbrake Ross, or at least show him the nose a little bit, and Ross maybe made a move to get in front of the 9. It's hard to tell. But watching the race all day, there was a really shallow entry into 11. There weren't a lot of cars that were using the traditional, brake straight out against the pit wall and then turn in really wide and try to drive off the bottom of 11. A lot of cars were driving in shallow and tight to the wall and making a bit of a diamond in the center, and so the line that it looked like Ross was going to take wasn't really that unusual. And then it looked like Chase jumped to the outside.
Yeah.
Or the left side of Ross, and I can't tell if Ross made a move there. I can't tell. But one way or another, Chase was either like, hey, I'm going to pop you in the ass and move you up the track and take the spot, or we're both in here over our heads, and I've just got to hit you to stop from, because I can't slow the car down. I'm not quite sure what happened, but as far Ross gets out the other end, he loses a spot, but he gets out the other end. He gets to finish the race. It's a harmless little moment, and there's 100 of those that happen throughout the day that you probably hardly ever see at Sonoma.
He netted out because he gained a spot from Kyle Busch there. So
well, yeah, it's a wash.
Yeah, right. So you don't think
he can take it, as well as he dishes it out. So I don't know that Ross was anywhere publicly complaining about that, and so
I think he just said he didn't, at least like with the 8, he didn't really know what happened, right? That's what he said after on pit road.
That's his excuse every time. It's like, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
Yeah, is that like is he really sharing exactly what he actually knows what happened there?
Ross is a good race car driver, and he knows exactly what happened.
Right.
He might not want to. I will say this: Ross is not really always that eager to be
like attention.
To be a soundbite.
Yeah.
And so, we've tried to, I've had some conversations with Ross about coming into the podcast from time to time. And the vibe that I get from Ross is Ross and me are friends, and I like Ross a lot. And even away from the racetrack, I think he's kind of a fun guy. But the vibe that I get from Ross is he's fine telling you what's going on his terms. He's not going to let it be on somebody else's terms, or he wants a little control over the narrative, and he doesn't want to be this week's soundbite. Right? He's not going to get out of the car and say something that then we're going to listen to all week long, and all of us are going to debate, and he's going to have to weather that storm, right? So he's really careful and selective about how he shares whatever message he has when he shares it. So I kind of like all that about Ross. I'll be honest with you, man. I think Ross doesn't rub me the wrong way. I'll just say it like that. I mean, that's kind of the difference. Like, when I think about all the race car drivers in the series, it's like, damn, do you get under my skin? Do you annoy the shit out of me? Do you I think you screw up a lot? Can I not stand the sound of your voice? If you're not doing any of those things, it's pretty good. And so, like, even with everything that Ross seems to kind of get himself into, I'm good with it because it doesn't annoy me. He doesn't annoy me with his actions, and he doesn't annoy me with the way he chooses to handle it afterwards and so forth. I mean, sometimes we see him go up there and when Noah approached him, right? I mean, we got to see Ross handle his business right there on pit road at Kansas, I believe, wherever that was.
Yeah,
but
I think it was Kansas.
So, I mean, I'm good with it. And as a broadcaster, and I think too as a race fan, I see a lot of fans have different opinions about Ross. But I think when you're a race fan, like you love racing, you have to realize that you want your racing series to have a driver, at least one, like this, right? And we might not like all the drivers, or we might dislike certain ones, but those guys are all necessary, so that it brings some dynamic, personalities and clashes to the series you're watching or you're a fan of. So we all should appreciate everything we're getting out of Ross as he goes through his career.
Yeah,
I was going to say, do you feel like he's still the same old Ross? Like, do you feel like we're still getting the edge that he used to have last year, kind of before that Darlington incident happened?
Like
or
that
is
conversation
it
with Justin Marks?
Yeah, I feel like I haven't seen much of Ross. I haven't heard much of him recently.
Well, the one thing that I'll say about Ross is I think that he knows when he doesn't have the hand to play or the race car to do business with. That's
a great point.
Ross isn't the kind of guy that's stirring the up no matter where he is in the field, right? And so he's only going to give you that sort of action that we tend to get from Ross when he has a car capable of doing something with, and when his car isn't what it needs to be, he doesn't make waves, which I think is a good thing because it's a sign of a bit of maturity. Like he realizes, man, I don't need to be the story every week, especially when I'm running 20th today.
Yeah,
my sucks, right? I don't need to be making, I don't need to be bringing unnecessary attention onto myself. And so, and that's kind of the way I think he deals with it out of the car too, right? I don't want to bring unnecessary attention to myself. At least that's the vibe I get. Maybe I'm not, I might be wrong about this, but I feel like he's pretty measured about all of those things in and out of the car. Now, if he's running in the top 10, he's trying to take a spot late in the race, we're going to get Ross, right? And that's who he is. A lot of the things that we see in a driver like that, that's their personality coming out. That's that person's personality and who they are to the core playing out in how they drive the car. And so, and a lot of those things you're not able to take out. You're not able to change. You're not able to, you can't, you're not going to fix that if that's something you want to fix. That's who that person is. And so there was another big crash in the race. Josh Berry trying to throw a block on the 43 car. I got some text messages from friends that said Josh Berry went bowling.
Yeah.
Turn 11.
There was someone who tweeted like the Wii bowling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you see that? That was hilarious.
Yeah, it was. It's unfortunate because Josh is, as I've been singing the praises of Josh for a long time, right? And I'm a big fan of Josh, and he's in a year where he's he doesn't have all year. Him and all of these drivers that are trying to find jobs for next year and trying to all of the Stewart-Haas charter shakeup sort of has all this dust up in the air, and there's all these drivers really kind of looking for a home, and he's one of them. And they don't have the entire season because teams want to get this nailed down in the next several months, right? I mean, we're really halfway through the year. You'd want to be able to know who's driving your race cars around at least through maybe the end of August. I mean, this has to happen in a pretty relatively short period of time, and every race is a tryout or a job interview for all of these drivers. And so Josh maybe didn't do himself any favors there with that, but just looking at that situation, all those drivers are coming through turn 10, and everybody's trying to take advantage of each other. They're 2, 3, 4 wide. You got somebody off in the dirt on the outside of turn 10 coming back onto the racetrack. And Josh is pretty low for the entry to turn 11. There's a lane below him, but that's not really good racetrack. And so I think Eric Jones drives into that lane. He's going to try to get to the inside of Josh. And I would assume that part of the track has no rubber. It's not been drove on. It's dirty. It's just not good. It's not, and so where Josh went to protect a part of the racetrack that was probably not necessarily important to protect. And I think in that moment, I don't know that I did this really well in my career, but I did learn this over time that, if you go to a road course, and this is not for just Josh, this is for literally everybody from 10th to the rear of the field, okay? When you go race at Sonoma or any of these road courses, and you know that you don't have a car, either don't have the car or the real raw ability to win the race, right? You're not one of the better road course racers yet, and you can tell in practice and qualifying, you just don't have the pace to go out there and duke it out with Truex or any of those guys up front, right? That's okay. And so you kind of have to go into those races with this really unique mindset that you would never really use anywhere else. You go into those races and it's all about staying on the blacktop and staying in a forward-facing position. And you got to give a lot. And it feels sort of it feels unusual and sort of against your code, your personal code, to be giving and sacrificing so much.
Like taking it easy, safe route.
Not really. Yeah, it's not so much take it easy. You cannot take it easy at Sonoma. You have to grind every freaking corner. But there's these guys out there that are gonna dive bomb. They're gonna get in over their head on corners like Ross, and they're gonna put you in bad situations. And in all of those moments, you have to realize that you've got to live to get out of the corner, right? You can't fight that fight right then because you're not going to make the corner, right? And so all that matters is getting out of that corner and going to the next corner and the next corner. But you got to grind. Racing at Sonoma is one of the more physical races that I can recall, because you're using parts of your body that you're not used to using, turning left and right, use some muscles in your back and stuff that just aren't really that used to working that hard, as opposed to going around in ovals. But anyways, when I would go to those races and I had good speed, I'd maybe argue some of those moments. I mean, it's easier to do that in the top 10. But when you're like 20th or 25th and it's nose to tail and everybody's driving like a jerk, you got to kind of realize that you kind of got to pick your battles a little bit, you know. And sometimes you're going to get used up and lose more spots than you really want to in a corner. But, man, those races, the way they play out, if you look at the rundown and look at a lot of the guys that finish in the top 20, they just didn't do anything wrong. They weren't spectacular, right? They weren't, oh, man, this guy was fast all day. They just didn't do anything wrong, right? And they walk out of there with a half-decent result. But this is coming from a guy who I think finished in the top 11 at Sonoma once or twice in his life. So I didn't really have a great track record there. But I think that also qualifies me to make that comment, because I did all the that you shouldn't do. And I did put together a couple good races. And so I've been on, I've done some good things at Sonoma, but I've done a lot of bad things there too. So I understand how you can get yourself in trouble there.
When you say you did all the that like you weren't supposed to do, so like you didn't follow that advice of, you know, be more give, you took more when you raced?
Right. Yeah. You get a guy that would dive bomb you that you just passed, right? You just passed a car. You know you're faster. You know if it was just you and him on the track by yourselves, you could beat him. But something's happened in front of you that's checked you up a little bit, and he's now dive bombing you into the corner or trying to pass you back, and he's in position to take the spot, and you're gonna go, nope, I'm gonna argue this on the outside, and we're gonna knock fenders and beat and bang and jump a curb, and now I've got my shit all messed up. I got a tire rub, or I'm off in the dirt, or I'm spun out. And so even though you just passed this guy, you worked 3 laps to get by him, and he's going to get back by you because of something silly going on in front of you, you have to let it happen sometimes. And that's hard to do because you work, you don't want to give up what you just worked so hard to get. But this race, the turnover and the churn of the field throughout an entire event at Sonoma, you're going to get that back. And there's going to be so many varying strategies on pit road that are going to take you completely away from that driver at some point in the race. And so it's important to try to keep that in mind when you're running, when you're not a top 10 car and you're running those races. That's how you sort of get out of there with something reasonable. Man, I'm going to tell you, man, going all the way to the West Coast to do that is frustrating. Going all the way to we raced all around the East Coast, and you have good and bad days. And then here it is, Sonoma weekend. You're going to a racetrack that you don't have a great track record at, or I didn't have a good track record at. And I was going to fly all the way to the West Coast to get my ass kicked or and do something stupid and get disappointed. That was my mentality every time I was, getting on a plane to go to that race. How could I get out of there at least not feeling that disappointed about it, right?
Yeah. Salvage something.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that was the attitude. Now you get there sometimes and be like, we're fast. I don't know what's going on.
We got something going on.
Practice is going good. All right. And then your whole attitude changes. But you don't know that until you get there, right?
Yeah.
So not only did you say that it's kind of like a physical and mental battle every time you go to Sonoma, then you have this race, which there were 8 cautions and for 22 laps. There were cautions all over the place. Are you for this kind of chaotic style of road course race, or do you prefer one that's just like someone goes out there and whips the field's ass?
Yeah, I don't want to watch I do not prefer seeing a guy destroy the field. That's not. I don't go to a race going, damn, I hope somebody yards the field. If it happens, I can appreciate it. If it ends up being that way, we went to Kentucky years ago, and Truex beat the field by 13, 20 seconds. It was something stupid. He was just, you couldn't catch him.
I'll look it up.
No one had anything for him. You don't have to look it up. People remember that night. It was miserable. It was one of my first, I think it was my first or second year in broadcasting. But the race sucked because he was just so much better than everybody else. And but then I got out of there and I was like, damn, man, that was amazing how much better his car was and how fast they were. And I'm not really that mad that the race sucked. I'm just really disappointed because I think a lot of people will walk away going, damn, that sucked. I didn't enjoy NASCAR. Right? I want people to walk away from every race going, I love NASCAR. NASCAR's the best. And that wasn't going to be the case that night. And that was really what I was upset about. It wasn't the race. It wasn't that Truex kicked everybody's ass and the race was, boring. It was that I knew people were going to have an adverse reaction to it. And so that was what I was actually bummed about. I've been around the sport. You're going to show up. Sometimes the races will be amazing. Sometimes they won't. You just go to the next. And that's completely different from complaining about how the car races on short tracks, right?
Right.
That's not the same thing. But I thought that race was fun. I always say this, man. I love seeing the drivers challenged.
Yeah.
I know the drivers complain sometimes when the challenges are unusual or are unique. When there's some variable at the race weekend that they're not used to seeing that they would rather not have to deal with. But I love when it's hard for our guys to do what they're doing. And I felt like this weekend certainly challenged them in certain ways and made me look forward to the next Sonoma race. I'll be honest, man, I hated going out there. I mentioned that just a few moments ago. I did not like going to Sonoma. But as I got older, in the last probably, once I married Amy, or me and Amy were dating even, and she started going with me. So Amy would be like, if I went to Sonoma by myself, I'm like, screw this sucks, I don't want to go. I got to go. I don't want to do this, but here we go. Go out there, sit in a hotel room, go to the racetrack, be miserable, run good, run bad, whatever. Go
Survive.
Yeah.
Yep. Now when Amy goes with me, we get there and she's like, all right, so what are we doing? Where are we going? Well, we're not at the track. Where are we going to go? Let's go to dinner somewhere. I'm like, oh, I don't know where the hell to go around here, right? So I went to Alcatraz. I think there's this town on the other side of the bridge, the San Francisco Bridge.
Yeah.
On
Golden
the other
Gate.
side of the bridge, there's this sort of like bay town called Sausalito or something like that. We went there one day and just kind of hung around. Petaluma is amazing. It's a little town near the racetrack. We stayed in a couple different resorts over the last several years that we went in my career. And, when I got into broadcasting, we either had that weekend off and we still went on a couple occasions. I think one year we went out there, either 2018 or 19, we went to Sonoma during the race weekend and didn't even go to the racetrack.
Huh. That would have been like the week before you were to start broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
What was the
And
occasion?
so-
Just to go?
Yeah, Amy was a big fan of going out there, and we had a friend that wanted to take us on this wine tours. I don't even drink wine. I'll drink a little white wine from time to time.
Yeah.
Some Pinot Grigio. That's what I like to call it. Pinot Grigio.
It's Spanish.
What? That's some good
Pino.
stuff. That's my favorite. You don't like that kind?
No, it's fun. I like Pino.
But that's what I like to drink. I got some of that stuff. The first time I ever drank white wine, I don't drink red wine. It just doesn't look appealing. But the first time I ever drank any of that, I was in Australia with Paul Morris, and his dad and Paul own a winery called Cimarette, and he gave me some Pinot Grigio. And dude, I was like, this ain't half bad. This is pretty
The
good.
wine
So,
guy now.
Do they make
Cimarette, dude. It's Australian, and every once in a while I get a bottle from him, and but that's I love, and that so now that's the only type of white wine that I like to drink. But I don't drink wine often. But anyhow, we went out there one time to Sonoma and did these kind of wine tours. Super fun. Oh man, and you get so silly. I mean, which I'm fine doing that. That's always fun.
Yeah. That's always a good end goal, no matter where you're at.
Yeah. Being wine drunk is certainly different than being beer drunk.
It definitely is.
That.
Yeah.
I did learn that.
I get the giggles when I'm wine drunk. It's fun.
Right?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
do.
I mean, we had.
Tim's, I'm going to start calling you Giggles.
We had a blast.
It's always fun. Everything's funny.
So the we can move on from the Cup race and talk a little bit about the Xfinity race.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the very end, it was relatively uneventful.
There was that one big one in the like right in the middle with Ty Gibbs. That was like the turning point in the race.
Yeah. So there were some conversations with me and my friends about that wreck. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, my friends were like immediately like, Jeb Burton, that's his fault, right? And I think I'm not 100% sure if Jeb took any ownership of it. I mean, everybody's running into the back of each other, right? And I mean, I know when somebody's pushing me, I can't really turn. I can't go that direction. I can't turn my wheels and go that direction. When somebody's shoving me, I'm gonna just keep going straight. So it was just, that was a nasty wreck. Just a bad situation where everybody was just not taking care of each other.
People were saying all weekend that's like the worst part of the track visibility-wise too. Like,
Yes,
did
it
that
is.
play
I
into
mean,
it at all?
Yeah. There's been some big wrecks there. I've been in a few over the hill there. Just because it's blind, you're coming up over the hill, you don't know if a car's sideways. And
right.
You can't lift because you think somebody might be in sideways in the track. You can't just lift because you think you're going to get beaten in the next braking zone. But that was not just one person's fault. I'll say that wreck. And the 19 ripped the right front off and then does donuts, and his teammate comes along.
I know, and he
already
wrecks
has some
him.
damage. Right?
Yeah,
runs into him. That was a little comical. But aside from that, the race was relatively uneventful. Junior Motorsports just kind of had a couple that worked hard to get decent results, and then we had some other cars with some mechanical issues and just kind of an up and down day for Junior Motorsports. And that's the way the road courses tend to go. I don't get too up or down for any of the road course races, as we talked about it. I think I've said it that I don't love the road courses that much, but I don't get that hyped up for the road course races in our series. But the end was entertaining, and SVG wins, I guess, 2 in a row now. And so I think that how that plays out with the 21 and everything that happened at COTA, good. That was good theater. Yeah,
entertaining.
Yeah, it was good theater. So
the fans loved it. I mean, everyone on Twitter was, there were memes, there were, petitions and hashtags and all this stuff. People are big on SVG right now.
What did you think of the burnout on the entire cooldown lap? Did you see the picture of Austin Hill giving him the finger too?
Yeah.
What'd you think of that? Yeah. That was
it's poetry.
It seems
it writes itself. Just this burnout and middle fingers going out the window. It's perfect.
I don't know what to think about this. That was great. I mean, the race was great. The burnout, everything that how them two have
interacted.
SVG gets out of the car and says it best. We've both taken a race from each other.
Yeah.
And the way when I've paid attention to V8 Supercar for quite a while, and probably about 20 years ago, I was really heavily into V8 Supercar and the Australian and New Zealand etiquette to racing is very physical. Racing was very physical. They would race each other really, really hard. But it was always it was I'll give you whatever you give me. And if you're going to be that physical with me, I'll be I'll be exactly the same amount, back. And it was always really, there was never like, you didn't see a guy get moved in a corner and then the next guy take him out in the next, right? It was more the physicality just kind of continued to ramp up. Each one pushed a chip in, as the race is going on. And it was always pretty measured, but super physical. And so SVG gets out of the car and says, I did what I did, but we can now both say that we've both done this to each other. And I thought that really, that's the way, that's the etiquette.
Yeah.
That I think that they use in V8 Supercar, which is a very fair, matter of fact. And I don't think SVG has a problem with Austin Hill. I think he could, I think he and Austin Hill could sit down right now and go, all right, man, we're even. All right.
You think Austin
I
Hill
don't
feels
know
the same way about that?
I don't know.
I didn't say Austin Hill.
Oh,
feels
sorry.
that way.
Yeah, SVG, I got you.
I think they could, if you set them at a table and got them to agree.
SVG's like, we're even. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that could be the end of it. I guess what I'm most curious about is like, where does it go from here? And will SVG continue to develop to where this could play out at an oval somewhere? Or is it only going to be in these moments when we go to the road courses where SVG really excels? There's two things there, maybe more than two things. All right, does SVG and Austin Hill continue to brawl? Unlikely, because right now SVG isn't where Austin Hill is on the ovals.
Yeah, no,
he's not.
He's not even close.
Right? And so this probably doesn't have the potential to continue to fester, right? That's one thing. Austin Hill, how does he flip this narrative a little bit that's sort of been created around his reactions to these moments? I would say that when he came into the studio and we sat down and had a conversation with him, I thought he was a great guest. And I think the guy's got a pretty great head on his shoulders, and the person that he's sort of painted himself in a corner to be in these last handful of weeks is not really the guy that I think he truly is. Would y'all agree with that?
I would definitely agree with that. I think that he had this kind of like swagger last year a little bit, and now it's a little bit of a, I don't know, like
he seems to be painted more as a villain this year.
Yeah, definitely.
So
I mean, he said after the race, when they asked him about it, he said, any opinion I have is always wrong, so I'll let them figure it out. Would he have given that answer last year?
No.
So that's, what does he do going forward does he lean into this? Does he try to flip it? What can he do to flip it, right? Because I don't really truly believe that he wants to be that villain.
Right.
He's a big boy. He has a bit of a bully vibe at times. But there's other moments when he's just taking care of business. He's just standing his ground. And I can see him do something and go, yeah. I mean, if I was him, I'd have done that. But I think that, everything that happened at Charlotte with him and Custer, he's right about everything up until he wrecks Custer on the back straightaway.
Yeah, right.
Right? He's right about everything. Custer and him race hard off the corner. They clash down the front straightaway. Custer wipes him out. He can get out of the car and complain like hell. Right? But what he does on the back straightaway is inexcusable, and he shouldn't have done that. And then this happens. So it's sort of this domino effect of he needs to change the narrative a little bit. He's certainly winning a race and doing things like that will help. But I feel like that he's taken a little bit of a detour. He needs to go back a little bit and get back on the right path in terms of his, reputation, how he's perceived, because I don't believe that that's truly who he is, right? That's one thing that's concerning, and that I'm curious as how it plays out. And then the SVG part. So SVG has got this opportunity to race full-time in the Xfinity Series. He's winning some races on the road courses, which we hoped and expected from him. And I think as he does that, more people, myself included, are going to pay more and more attention to the oval side and how those results are trending. I know that Colleague has been a bit up and down this year, so it's hard to know when the car is struggling. I mean, you can certainly look at the other Colleague cars. He's not just getting blasted by them. He's actually running relatively close to them, if not in front of them. Because SVG, if everything goes as planned, since the plan was made a year ago, he's going into the Cup Series full time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And he has a lot to learn in terms of racing on the oval. So, as he continues to win on the road courses and that likelihood of that full-time Cup ride continues to materialize, then, we should start taking more stock in his oval progress, right? So that we can know what to expect from him next year.
How long will it take him to, because DBC was saying he could start practicing right now for Iowa, and he's still not going to match up to the guys who are so experienced at the ovals every single week. Like, how much time do we need to give him of, like, okay, we're obviously our expectations are different. You're still racing the ovals, but, like, when is that, experience level? When do we cross that line of, okay, now we're going to start expecting to see SVG perform on all types of tracks, not just road courses?
I guess the only other, I guess one great comparison would be Juan Montoya.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have Juan's stats in front of me, but I remember there being about, a year and a half to 2.5 years of him just, sort of figuring it out. And when it really all came down to it, where did we all land on Juan Pablo Montoya as an oval racer?
Mid-tier, like nothing memorable, right?
Yeah. I mean, this was a great race car driver. I don't know of another comparison to that. A guy that's been racing a certain style his entire life, and now it's going to switch over to ovals in a stock car. And I know it's not really a stock car. I mean, this is literally almost identical to what he's been racing all his life. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, there's that. That part of it you hope is going to help him be able to adapt quicker to the ovals. But the thing that's probably the most challenging for anybody, myself included, to get in the next gen car in an oval is understanding how the air works. So now that the air goes underneath the car and back to the diffuser, how that works in traffic is completely new to anyone. And all of the drivers like Denny and all these boys that have been racing this car since it came into the series have been learning that. And they can, some of the things that we already knew about dirty air and how the cars would react behind each other are applicable to the next gen car, but everything about the air going underneath the car to the diffuser and how to keep that happening to the best of your ability when you're in traffic, that's the big trick in this car. And so when you're in 20th and you got 8 cars in front of you taking up a lot of racetrack, where do you go to get as much air as you can underneath that to that diffuser?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to, for all our life, we went down in the corner and ran the line we wanted to run. For the most part, you ran where you wanted to put the car. And now you have to look at everything in front of you, all of the other cars and where they're at, and go, all right, I think I'll have the most air here. So I'm going to run on this spot in the racetrack. It's not really where I want to be, but it's where I'll get the most air to the diffuser. And you're doing that every single lap, every single corner. That's one of the things I find the most fascinating about the next-gen car and the drivers and how they've had to adapt and learn how to keep air on that diffuser underneath the car. And so they already know everything about oval racing that SVG doesn't know. And they've got a year or two on him on learning how to use this particular car at an oval. So it's pretty challenging. And he's he's not running that many ovals. And
it's an Xfinity car. Like, can you even say that it's the same thing? Like,
no.
Like,
so he's not getting any experience with this next gen car on the oval. So everything he's learning about it on the Xfinity side.
Is it almost bad habits? Maybe not the right word, but
he's only getting about 50% of it.
The fundamentals of oval racing.
He's gonna. Josh, I watched Josh a lot, and I watched him transition and try to go run the Cup car, and I watched the races. I go to the racetrack and sit there and watch him, like, have those damn moments, what the heck moments when he'd go down in the corner and follow somebody in the corner and lose the whole car because the air wasn't on the diffuser. And he had to learn, like, shoot, I can't follow him down in the corner like I could with my Xfinity car or any other car I've ever driven in my life. I've got to offset a little bit or whatever. So there's a lot. This week, I guess, to summarize what I'm trying to say about all this with the Xfinity series is the end of that race was compelling, great storyline, dramatic, good theater, fun stuff.
Cheers.
I don't think the SVG Austin Hill thing continues. If it does, great. More importantly, what does Austin Hill do to change the narrative a little bit about him in terms of public perception and SVG, his development as a true NASCAR, complete package race car driver? Those two things pique my interest right now. All right, we got Kyle Larson calling in to the Dale Jr. Download on this Tuesday. Where are you at, Kyle?
I am sitting in front of HMS right now.
Are you supposed to be in there in a meeting?
Here soon, like 30 minutes, we'll do our 5-team debrief, and then that'll roll into the competition meeting at like 11:30. So, yeah, back to work.
I appreciate you giving us a minute of your time. I know you got a busy schedule. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about this past weekend. You were on the offense late in the race with tires. What's your preference in those moments? Would you rather be on the defense? I'm a kind of guy that give me the tires. Let me try to do my best to figure this out. I hate being out there on used tires when somebody's got new tires running me down.
Yeah, I agree. I think at least in my past history, I feel like I do better when I'm on offense. I feel like the times when I'm on defense, it's just I don't know. I think you end up abusing your tires even more, trying to hold people off, and then it just compounds the disadvantage that you have, and then end up doing worse. I feel like there is a couple guys out in the field that are good, really good at being out there on defense on old tires, but I'm not one of those. So give me new tires, and let me see what I can do. Obviously there's times when you need the track position and you have to do that, but I was happy to be, it seemed like at a pretty high advantage too on my tires as long as we stayed out. So I thought that all worked out really well.
When you got close to the 8 and the 19, how bad? It's hard to tell watching the race, and so I was kind of curious as to how much the dirty air affected your car. We noticed you lost a lot of lap time when you got to the back bumper of those guys, but you were eventually going to get by, it seemed like, and the 19 runs out of gas, so that would have been a non-issue. But how bad was dirty air? Was it more than normal? Was it not as bad as it usually is? How much of a problem was that?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I thought it was better than normal there. I think because you have the track grip, and then I mean also though I was on 10 lap pressure tires or so, but I really didn't think that it changed a whole lot as I got closer to them. I thought my lap time kind of was slower because I was trying to be patient. They were starting to race. You can't charge your brake zones as much, because you're not going to pass them. So you're just kind of going in there, to their pace a little bit. But I feel like turn 2 and turn 10 there would probably be the only corners where you really struggle with maybe dirty air. And I thought in turn 10 could be really close to them and felt similar on balance. So I think the track grip probably helps more than anything. Feel like, at least for me, that I didn't lose a lot of grip when I was getting to them.
We got Iowa coming up this weekend. I know you did the tire test there. Looking at the photos from the Repave, it's pretty crazy that the things that we're seeing as far as how they chose to patch the racetrack. And I'm trying to remain positive, but it looks pretty crazy. What kind of racing do you think we're going to actually see there? I mean, I can't imagine that you would want to be anywhere but on that new asphalt, and that's going to make things really challenging.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to have to be on the new pavement. When we tested there, it was so slick. It took probably 4 hours for us to make comfortable laps. But then, once the grip kind of came in, it was normal, really grippy. But with only 3 cars there was lots of marbles just outside the groove. So if you missed it by an inch, you would lose a second on your lap time. So I'm curious to see if it'll be like that still, if we'll have a bunch of marbles, just outside the groove. And I think if you do, I think that lends itself to mistakes, and then hopefully that will help with passing. So yeah, I'm trying to be positive as well, but we'll see. I think it's got progressive banking too, so that should help. But yeah, I don't really know until we get there. The braking zone into 1 is still really rough because that's still the old pavement, so it's extremely rough. The front stretch down into turn 1 is extremely rough, but once you get to the new pavement, it's very smooth and grippy. But we'll see. I don't really know what to expect yet, but I know we won't be all the way to the wall in the old the old pavement anyways.
Yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun, I think, to see, and hopefully the race ends up pretty good. I mean, Iowa's been working really hard to try to get this opportunity, and hopefully the patchwork repave doesn't ruin it. Appreciate the time you give us today, man. Good luck going forward, racing for a championship, and tell everybody at HMS I said hey.
I will. Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on.
So awesome to be able to talk to a race winner again this week, and just kind of get an idea of what to expect coming up in Iowa. The Repave, I go back to, I think the best thing that I could tell people to go watch is when they put this brand new strip of pavement up in the very top groove at Pocono. This was, 2008. I don't remember when they did this. 2012. I remember it being there and being something you had to use when Harvick spun Logano in turn 3 that year in the COT. But when they put that pavement up there in that turn in turn 3 at Pocono, we all went out there and practiced, and we all run the usual line. And then, you're looking at the speed charts. Everybody's running the bottom of 3 and 4 like always, and you're looking at the speed charts, figuring out where you're at. Okay, we're doing okay. And then somebody goes out there, and you can't see because track's so damn big. You're in the garage, you can't see where people are really physically, literally running on the racetrack. We didn't have SMT and like that back then. Mm-hmm. Somebody popped up 8/10 faster. And you're like, damn, that's a mock run, a qualifying run. What was that? And then you go look at another car does it, and then another car. And you're like, what is going on? Get out on the racetrack, right? And you're driving around, in practice, getting ready to make another run. You go off in the corner, and somebody runs up on that grip strip in front of you, and you're like, they're on that new asphalt up there, way at the very top of the corner. And you go up there and try it, and it's like, holy cow. It's like not even close how much more grip this has. And so from that moment on, you had to be on it. You never, if you ran the bottom, you were going to get beat by half a second. And, you know, it was like that for several trips back to that racetrack before the bottom sort of came, you know, the top lost enough grip to where it about evened out to where you might be able to use the bottom, but it took a while for that to happen. So I'm going to be completely shocked. When we go to Iowa, what I think is going to happen is, you know, Larson made a great point about how slick it was. He meant the new asphalt. And once they put rubber down, it started to get comfortable. And then, but anywhere outside of that little groove, that car width of a groove they were running was nasty, a second slower, a whole second. And so now that will get better with more cars on the racetrack, but not a lot. It will not go. Think back to the very first time we all went back to Michigan when they repaved it, how wide the groove was. It wasn't. It was one car width. You had to be right in those tracks. And if you got out of that groove to let a faster car by, or if you're coming up on a lap car, they didn't want to get out of that groove. It was so treacherous. And when they did, they were like a whole 0.8 seconds slower. That's what it's going to be like. So you have that happening just in the new asphalt, right? You're going to have this one groove that you're going to have to be in. And then if you get out of that groove on the new asphalt, you're in big trouble. And then if you have a third layer of treachery, which will be the old asphalt, which is it will be no man's land. No one will ever want to be on the old asphalt. You're never going to go there with the expectation of getting underneath somebody or pulling alongside of another car to complete a pass. No chance. So I don't know if we'll actually learn just how much faster the new asphalt will be versus the old asphalt, but you're kidding yourself if you think that there's going to be multiple grooves, and you're kidding yourself if you think you're going to use that old asphalt racing a normal line. You're never going to want to be in it. Once they work that new asphalt groove in, that's where you're going to have to be to be competitive. And it'll not be wide. It'll be relatively narrow in terms of that groove on the new asphalt. That groove will be pretty tight and narrow. So I hate to I guess I hate to be negative about it, but it's interesting because it sounds negative, and I think it's negative, but I'm intrigued at the same time, right? I'm intrigued.
It's
like
a
I cannot
Frankenstein of a repave.
Yeah.
While I feel like what I'm going to see might not be what I prefer to see,
It's going to be interesting.
I can't wait to see it.
Kind of like
Yeah.
a car wreck.
Right?
Yeah,
gotta watch it.
exactly. Yeah, you can't look away.
I cannot wait to see it. And so I think the only thing that we could go, we're going to probably be really intrigued and entertained, and oh man, we're going to have all kinds of comments. I think social media will be blowing up about, what their opinions are of the racetrack and the patchwork and whether they like it, whether it was the dumbest thing they've ever done, and why did they do this? Iowa, you finally got your cup date. This is what you do. I mean, that's probably
Right.
I can't wait to read social media during the race, but we may see these moments where, they're going to have these restarts and cars are going to go down in the corner, and like I told you, there'll be one groove that you have to run,
Mm-hmm.
and there'll be two, sometimes three cars trying to put themselves in it. And when they can't, when one of them stakes claim to that preferred line, what
over.
do the other two do?
Right.
Right? They're screwed if they don't screw the other guy, right? There's going to be a lot of, hopefully we see it, but there will be a lot of going on, particularly on the restarts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the choose cone, does that greatly influence what
Maybe,
lane
yeah.
you may choose? You know, if one lane is
well,
like so clearly better.
Whatever you'll choose, if one lane gives you a better chance of getting in that preferred groove in turn 1 and 2.
Right. Yeah.
So let me backtrack just a bit. Okay, let's just assume that there is a single one car wide groove through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? Let's just assume that that's what you're going to get. You're going to have a racetrack where there'll be one lane that you have to be in, and if you're not in that one lane, you're going to be at least 2 to 5 tenths slower. All right, so restart happens, you're side by side, and then somebody goes 3 wide or jumps on your out. You know, you're at least 2 wide, maybe 3 wide, and you're all headed down to the corner, and you're all going, all right, I want that groove, and so does he, right? And so what do? And you've got the next gen car with this fabulous diffuser that everybody needs air to, right? That's really
Fabulous.
that screws
throws a
all
wrench
kinds of
in
shit. Yeah, it's going to be entertaining, but not in the usual way. I thought I haven't talked to anybody, but I just I make assumptions. I thought that they repaved this track because of the bumps, because all my Xfinity guys say the bumps there are nasty, especially down in 1 and 2. And I thought, okay, they must have needed to repave this racetrack because the next gen car does not handle bumps well. The drivers don't look, the drivers talk about it being rough on them physically when this car goes over curbs or whatever. And Larson says that a lot of the bumps in the braking zone to turn 1 are still there. Still there and still pretty severe. So that's another thing that I don't envy for these drivers having to, man, when you got you're in that headrest and it's tight and you go wham across a bump, and this next gen car rides the bumps worse than anything.
It was so stiff.
God dang, man, it's hammering you. You're banging your head against that headrest in lap after lap, and you can't drive around them. You got to go through them. I don't envy that.
That kind of plays into what I was going to ask you is I believe, if I'm getting this correctly, that Jeff Gluck said he spoke with NASCAR and they said that they didn't have enough time to do the full track. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's unfortunate for everybody because doing the whole track would have absolutely been the better decision here. But again, like Iowa has been begging for this opportunity. They have been trying to get this opportunity for so long, and you would hate to have to make them wait. And would they get that opportunity next year? So there's all kinds of other ideas out there floating around. I think NASCAR's trying to get to Mexico City, so that's going to cost somebody a race next year. And it's like these Iowas and St. Louis's and all these sort of one-offs are the most vulnerable tracks. If I was to make an assumption, like I love to do, so. If Iowa doesn't get this race, do they ever get another one? We don't know.
Yeah, like how
I
much of
kinda
a
feel like
tryout is this?
I was about to say it's an audition, and if that kind of seems like they're, to use a phrase of being set up to fail a little bit in a way.
Could be.
I don't know.
Dalton. I think that's everybody's sort of underlying
Sentiment, yeah.
gut feeling, and it's you don't want to, props to you because I don't want to say it. I don't want to say that. I don't want to put that out in the universe. I want NASCAR to succeed.
Right.
And we may see something truly entertaining and intriguing but not for the usual reasons. So I'm staying hopeful that it's going to be a good race. And I guess I'm hoping, based off of what you said, that no matter what, they're going to get the thing fully repaved after the show.
I hope so, because they said it was due to weather, because it gets too cold up there.
Right.
So hopefully after this, they have the whole summer. Like, there's no excuse now.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
So NASCAR announced this past October, I'm reading an article, that a repave would occur, leaving them a narrow window to get it done in time, with 3 months of winter halting all the progress. And, of course, they need to get it paved before they can go tire testing there.
Right.
So, your window gets really close.
Right.
Well, hopefully, if they have this race, regardless of the result, they do get a full pave on that racetrack. And I feel like that if they did, man, it would open that place up. I would love to go race there, but I never have because of the bumps, hearing about how bad they were, how rough the racetrack was. Me at 50 years old, I don't need to go through that. I don't need to put myself through that. So I ain't going to do it, And I'd love that racetrack to it seems like, the next-gen car doesn't suffer from, the repaves as bad as, what we might assume.
Like the other car used to.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some repaves that maybe don't work out, but some of them do. I'm not as worried, I guess, about repaves like I used to be with the next-gen car because, man, it don't matter. These guys, that diffuser, they have to find clean air. They have to get out from behind the car in front of them. So
no matter
repave the track, it don't matter. They're going to use all of it.
Arrows still.
It's less about the grip, more about aero. Yeah.
That makes sense.
This week's segment was brought to you by Tire Pros. There's few people who love cars as much as I do, but these tire and service experts, they equally love the drive. They offer a huge selection of brand name tires and full service repairs, from oil changes to alignments to brakes. Tire Pros is more than just tires, and they're giving your vehicle the TLC it deserves. Tire Pros is unique because each location is owned by men and women in your community, and they have the added support of over 600 locations nationwide. So next time you need your car to get a tune-up, show your neighbors some love and take it to your local Tire Pros.
Well, is it personal story time at the end of the show? After Dirty Air, changing it up. I got one for you if you want.
All right, fire away.
Amy posted an Instagram photo.
She sure
for
did.
A bunch of Instagram pictures of y'all at the beach.
She sure did.
You look very relaxed. You look very comfortable here.
I know. Yeah.
That's a great picture.
This is for the camera right
You
there.
being an
No, it is. It's actually like a really good quality picture. It's just funny because you've got this pink sparkly floaty
and you
around
look
your
and
neck.
you got like this tough look about you, but like you're using
the face doesn't match the setting. That's for sure. I mean, it's like I'm a badass in my sunglasses, but here's my pink floaty keeping me up.
Dale, it looks like a cologne ad. I just sent you a picture.
Got you.
It looks like Ralph, a new fragrance. New fragrance.
Boy, you better be putting the Dakar Noir out there. That's
Yeah.
Or
I was the Dakar Noir guy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or Yacht Rock, greatest hits.
Yeah, that you look like a yacht rock singer, a pontoon rock singer.
Greatest hits.
We're Houseboat Rock.
Houseboat Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be like the playlist cover.
Yeah.
So I was in the swimming pool with my kids. TJ was here with his family. We were all in the pool. We had a bunch of these little floats for the girls because there were 3 kids, right? Or four kids. And so we had to have floats for everybody. The pool's rather small, to be honest with you, which is fine. But so there were 4 or 5 of these little ring floats in there, and I just hanging out, floating around with everybody, having fun.
Yeah.
And grabbed that one and didn't even think nothing of it. Amy took that picture, and I begged her. I was like, that better not be on social media. And she waited for like 3 days.
That's
snuck
minimum.
it in there in the back
At the very
side of
end,
that post.
Picture 10.
Like maybe he'll never see this. But yeah, that's gonna cost me for many, many years. I mean that lives forever. Right, and the further removed, time-wise, the less context there is, and so that thing's gonna pop up 5-10 years from now, and it's just going to be the most weirdest thing, right? But anyhow, I'll have every time I can see me having to explain where I was, what was going on, why was there a pink float in the pool for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But
I always find that anything out of context is funnier. So
yeah,
maybe you just don't give any context.
Yeah. Like, what's wrong with the picture?
Yeah. Hey, I mean, we are in the throttle this summer, having a good time. Things are going well.
Hell yeah.
I saw something else.
I always do. I was thinking about this last night, and this is how I settled my mind. Right. This is how Amy doesn't ever make a bad social media post. So
I agree with that.
It's calculated.
I will stay confident in the fact that she doesn't make any bad social media posts. So hopefully this doesn't turn out to be as much of a pain in the ass as I think it might be.
Is that your official statement?
That's his PR statement.
Yeah,
we're gonna tweet that quote later from his account.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't make a bad social media post.
I trust in my team, do the best thing for me.
Yeah.
I saw something else, Dale. You are a fan of beer and a particular kind of beer. And according to beeradvocate.com, your favorite kind of beer, the Budweiser Select 55, is the worst rated beer on that website.
In the world.
It is the worst tasting, worst everything. How do you feel about that?
That's amazing. Okay, so I've worked with Budweiser for, I don't know, almost 10 years. And as a I guess, when you have that kind of relationship with Budweiser, we did a lot of amazing things. They put me on this deal where I still get beer. And so the beer truck comes by ever so often, once a month or whatever, and drops off a few cases. And when I became a dad and I got a little bit older, I still love to drink beer. And I really love to drink beer. But I didn't always love the way that I love drinking beer, but didn't always want to be intoxicated, right? Not all the time, right?
It's fair.
So let's just be clear about this. And so, also I've been kind of on and off diets all my life, or not necessarily diets, but counting calories, right?
But those don't count. Beer calories don't count.
Yeah, right. And so I found, Miller has the 64, and Bud has the 55. Outside of that, the next sort of category in terms of calories is going to be your Bud Lights, Coors Lights, Miller Lights, Corona Light. All of those are going to be in the 90s, right? 90s something calories. And so I'm thinking, man, I can drink 2 55s to one, Bud Light, right? And so they have half of the alcohol, so they're 2.4, I think. And, I'll get up in the morning, dude. When I'm on vacation, I'll have a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Damn right.
Hell yeah.
Shit. Ain't nobody gonna tell me what time I can drink. I'll drink when I want, right? And so, and I'm gonna drink some days during the summer or on a weekend or whenever. I'm gonna drink all day. And so I can, you can drink those 55s from the time you get up to the time you go to bed. They have half the alcohol and half the calories and still be functional, in the back half of the day.
Yeah,
it's a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
You still play the back nine, all right.
Yeah, and
right.
I'll slip in a regular beer in between a couple 55s. If I feel like I need to bump it up a notch, I'll slide one of the beers that I've been enjoying this week is Natural Light. I've been drinking a lot of those, and so I'll slide a Natural Light in there. But yeah, I get a lot of for drinking 55s from my friends. Some of my friends tell me that I shouldn't even talk about it, but I don't give a I don't have no shame.
Do you drink them faster than a normal beer?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
But I don't think so. Not really. I think what has happened is that the older I got, the faster I start. The faster I'll drink a 16-ounce beverage,
right,
or a 12-ounce beverage or whatever, right? So just as I've gotten older, I just will drink it quicker. And what I was doing was, if we sat down, and Amy would tell me this, she's like, man, you'll drink a regular, you'll drink 3 or 4 regular beers in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Like quick, like bam, 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 in 15 minutes, you've already drank a couple. And I don't realize it, right? So, in 2 hours, I've drank 8-10 beers. And I'm like, I got 4, 5, 6 more hours in this, in this evening or this day or whatever we're doing, right?
Gotta save your tires.
I gotta calm so, the 55s was a great transition, man. I transitioned over to the 55s, and I can drink as many beers as I want, and I like the fact that it has a little bit of alcohol, but not too much. And if I want to switch over to the regulars, the unleaded and the leaded, or whatever you want to
sticker
call it,
tires.
Yeah,
I can switch over and slide one of them in. But I'll say this, man. So the beer itself has a function. Like it
plays its role.
And it plays a role.
Yeah.
And it ain't like, dude, it just tastes watered down compared to like a Bud Light or a Miller Lite or a Coors Light. It just tastes like you just, watered it way down. Which don't make it the worst tasting beer in the world. I mean,
yeah.
Honestly, I would take every single ale and craft beer and put it above 55 in terms of worst tasting beer. I cannot stand craft beer.
I think that's where this list is coming from. Like all the stuff at the top are these 12-15% stout IPAs and stuff like that. I'm like, Budweiser Select can't be that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
A bunch of snobs out there.
I will there every once in a while. I'm the that when I go to I'm sorry, I can't help this. When I go to the craft beer places that serve only the craft beers, and I know this annoys the hell out of the bartender, I'm the guy that's like, you got anything that's kind of like a domestic light?
Yeah.
And they hate that. They hate me. They hate that person. And, they probably give me something that ain't even close just because I'm there. They're like, screw this guy. You come into our place and ask for that.
Yeah.
But that's who I am.
We've got this dandelion light that you can have, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
There's a brewery in Charlotte, and the description on one of their beers is just crushable. And I'm like, that's the beer I want.
Yes.
It's like a 4% beer. It's crushable.
And I'm not ashamed.
No.
And I'm going to drink some 55s today.
We're live.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Ask Junior portion of the show. And thanks for tuning in. And all the boys are back in the studio, and I'm back in the vacation home studio. And
Sandcastle.
Yeah, everything's been going good. We've had a great show so far. Had a lot of fun. Talked to Kyle Larson a little bit about his win, but also about Iowa coming up. He did the tire test out there, and there's some patchwork on the Repave that's pretty interesting. But anyhow, the Ask Junior is brought to you by Xfinity Mobile. It gets you the speed you need on or off the track. It's the fastest mobile service with 5G and millions of Wi-Fi hotspots. And nationwide coverage that'll always come through for you in a clutch. Make the switch today and save with Xfinity Mobile. They're a proud premier partner of NASCAR and a great supporter here of the Dale Jr. Download and Dirty Mo Media. So thank you, Xfinity. So anyways, good to see everybody. Going to interview Mario Andretti for our guest segment this week. Good Lord, that's going to be cool. And so excited about that, but also excited about these questions y'all got today.
Yes, this first question is from Scotty, and we have just finished round 2 of the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge. How is your bracket holding up after that.
My bracket has destroyed completely.
Completely screwed.
Completely destroyed. Like I'm out.
You're
I'm
done?
out. Yep.
No
I'm
one
out.
left?
So nothing. Yeah. I mean, I had Denny winning it all. I guess
Yeah,
when
it's
your
tough.
winning it all guy goes out,
Yeah. That was
it's
me
over.
a week ago with
It's over.
Truex.
Yeah, it's over. This is fascinating because last year I kind of went all the way to the end, or close to the end, I guess. I had somebody kind of in contention all the way to the end. And in college basketball, which is the only other comparable thing that I've ever done to this, I've always kind of been in the hunt, at least till the Final Four. And so with this, though, your guy can inexplicably be knocked out in one of the early rounds. And man, I'll be honest with you, I really don't like it. I really ain't happy about that, obviously. And so going forward, in all seriousness, NASCAR is going to have this tournament. Imagine, what this would mean for sports books, for drivers that are going after this monetary reward.
Oh, yeah.
Should this ever become something that would give you a automatic, round one bye in the playoffs, or become something that was implicating on the playoffs? This could get pretty dang cool. I think it could be pretty colorful and exciting for the middle of the season. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think that I guess my mind's cranking away at how do you fit that into the broadcast, right? How will Amazon and Turner want to weave that into what we already do in a typical broadcast for a race? So that'll be pretty exciting. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, my bracket's destroyed. And I probably, while there are many of you who are still clicking along, watching, I will be wishing you the best, but I'm out.
Wait, I proudly predicted Logano over Hamlin, so that's my one claim to fame.
Pretty smart by you.
Thank you. Yeah, but Truex got eliminated the first round. He was my champion, so that's where my intelligence ends. We have one sole leader at the top of our bracket challenge with 770 points, GIAG Warrior, who is Larson winning it all, 15 out of 16 in round 1, 7 out of 8 in round 2.
Damn.
That is pretty damn
amazing.
impressive. Like, I looked at their bracket. They somehow knew Noah Gragson was going to upset William Byron and Logano was going to beat Hamlin. Like, that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's impressive stuff.
They might need to go through tech, because
Yeah.
I don't know how you pick Gragson over Byron at a road course, right?
Yeah, right,
that's
exactly. But we have Logano, Keselowski, Elliott, Gregson, Buescher, Chastain, Larson, Reddick. Those are the remaining matchups for the bracket challenge going into Iowa. It's going to be fun to watch. Let's see. Moving on. I have my questions all over the place today. I'm sorry. I've got it on like 3 different sheets. Here we go. I found one of the questions. I need to have a better organization system here. This question's from Lewis, and it's about the ongoing charter talks. Jim France, and this is from a great article everyone should check out that Ryan McGee wrote on ESPN. Jim France has reportedly told teams that NASCAR can't offer permanent charters because, quote, we can only support you as long as we're being supported by media networks. Like, what are your thoughts, reactions to that?
My first thought is that I wished Ryan McGee did more articles about racing, because the guy
so good.
is fantastic.
I know.
The best.
I hate to share him with the sports world, but he is one of the best at what he does, but also a really cool dude. And it's awesome to hear that nugget, man, because that was one of the things that we knew the teams were pushing hard for, and probably one of the things that was stalling the ultimate like agreement. And to have Jim, we haven't heard really much from Jim, certainly not a direct quote. And so to hear Jim come out and say that, like, hey, I read a lot of the quotes in that article, and I've said it on the show. My favorite NASCAR was the Bill France Jr. NASCAR. My favorite NASCAR was when Bill and his father ran the sport the way they thought it should run. And they were so clever in how they would negotiate with the teams and how they would help the teams understand their position. And so McGee says as much. Hypothetically, he can hear Bill France Jr. telling the teams, we took something that you said was worth nothing and made it worth something, right? And so, you know, this is as far, Jim's is basically saying, this is as far as we can go. You know, they can't build this bridge to nowhere because there's no guarantee that the media rights will always be this lucrative and that the TV deals, you know, will last forever. And there's no roadmap in front of us that says, man, this is where we're headed in terms of how people will consume our races with streaming coming in, and we really don't know where the value is. NASCAR is spending millions of dollars on production, building the giant building in North Carolina to try to create all of their own content. My hope is that one day we'll have a NASCAR channel, kind of like Speed Channel or MAV TV, but you know the NFL Network has their channel. I'd love for NASCAR to have its own channel that created all of its own content, showing old races and all of the daily shows that we love, race hubs, and all of those things can live there. And so NASCAR is making this massive investment in itself. I see Jim's point, and I hope that the teams can move forward and agree. But I also think that there'll be other opportunities down the road to bring that argument back up. The teams are always going to want to make the charters permanent. If I owned a charter, I would certainly be telling you right now that I want my charter to be permanent. When the deal gets renegotiated down the road, however long this new agreement will be, the teams will have a chance to argue this again. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, you know, it's not like the end of the road in terms of this conversation around making the charters forever. It just might not happen. It just might not happen this round in terms of the new charter agreement.
You know, everything seems to kind of obviously as it should come back to money when it comes to the charter conversation. And Denny kind of took a stance last night and tweeted that he said permanent charters don't cost anything in response to this. Do you agree with Denny on that, or do you disagree? Not to pitch you against him or not, just want your take on it.
Well, I think what NASCAR, I would have to get further into the conversation to understand, but I believe if the teams get permanent charters, then NASCAR is obligated to support those charters through the agreement, giving them that amount of money per race that they're allotted to get, right? And getting that guarantee. Well, if TV rights just up and went away, right? You don't know for sure where the TV rights are going to be in 5 or 10 years. You just don't. The way we consume content changes so rapidly. Where will we go to find places for our races to live in 10 years from now? I mean, did you ever think that, all these networks would be switching over to streaming platforms? Did you ever, we look at I know this is getting out in the woods, but look at how we consume music today versus how we
Completely
used to
different.
years ago, right? Yes, yeah, so, I mean, you got to be careful.
Right.
NASCAR cannot guarantee and depend on those hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars always being there. Now, if they could, if NASCAR knew for eternity we're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars on TV, they would probably be more comfortable making the charters permanent because they can then financially support the agreement forever. But until they can financially know that they can support that agreement, I don't know that they can make that commitment, right? And so I can see both sides of the argument. I promise you, if I had a charter, I'd want it to be permanent. I would not want the risk of losing it, but or whatever. But I can also see NASCAR's side of it, and the traditionalist in me really likes when Jim France, similar to his brother, knows what he wants, knows what he can do, knows what he's capable of doing, and puts it out there in front of you and says, this is the deal.
Yeah, definitely a lot of interesting things to follow. We got time for one more question here, and this kind of ties a little bit together. This one's coming from Max. Did you have a favorite memory from, Race Hub? I think is actually today is their big finale show. Favorite memory from Race Hub and just overall reaction to it moving away?
I don't remember doing a bunch of Race Hub shows, to be honest with you. I will say this. I worked on the NBC side, and we had our show, Racing America, on the Sports Net, NBC Sports Network. It was fun to do that show, and I knew what numbers that show brought in. They were decent, good numbers. I knew the numbers that Sports Hub would do. They were good. It's enough viewership to. There's good demand for this show, right? While Race Hub goes away, something will take its place. And they'll, same as, anything else, is when there's demand for this show, there's demand for daily NASCAR content, and someone, whether it's NASCAR and what they're producing or creating with their own production company in Charlotte or in North Carolina there, someone will bring a daily show back to network or cable television, and maybe multiple. So we just have to be patient. But I know it's probably very emotional for all of those people that are involved in that show at Race Hub and at Fox. And there's a ton of turnover and change, and you hear a lot of things going on in terms of a lot of people are losing jobs, but I would not want to. I don't envy that group having to create that final show, and I imagine that's going to be a pretty difficult thing emotionally.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of super talented people on the Race Hub side. I'm gonna miss Radioactive. That's gonna be my big thing.
Yeah, well,
and you've had some features on Radioactive, Dale.
I know.
Sorry,
yeah. The one thing that you did say is they're talented and they'll land on their feet.
Yeah,
they will.
Well, until something comes back, we've got Dirty Mo Media.
We do have some Dirty Mo Media content.
We have shows coming out every day, but Friday and Saturday. So get your fix here.
All right, that's a good place to wrap up Ash Jr. this week.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well out there. We're certainly doing good. And again, want to thank Xfinity for supporting us on Dirty Mo Media and the Dale Jr. Download, and they've been a big supporter of Ask Jr. for all these years. Thanks for sending your questions in to their Twitter handle. And, if you haven't tried Xfinity Mobile, you might want to switch over today. Great coverage, 5G, and hotspots all across the nation. You won't be disappointed. All right, it's time for Dirty Mo Doe with Tampa Tims. I see in this segment, Andrew, you just call it Doe with Tampa Tims.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah.
Is that the name of the segment? Doe with Tampa Tims?
Dirty Mo Doe with Tampa Tims. I don't know if we have a name.
Bet the Doe.
Doe update with
Bet
Tampa
the Doe's
Tims.
not bad.
Bet the Doe.
Bet the Doe with
Let's
Tampa
get
Tims.
this dough with Tims. I don't know.
It's Doe.
So Alex, you I thought I saw you mention this, but you bet Logano 45-1.
Yes, midweek before the
Right.
weekend. Yeah.
He gets the pole, and you cashed before the race?
Yeah, so I didn't expect to look at it, but the FanDuel offered a cash out that was more than double my initial investment. So
Holy moly.
I just took it and ran. And people reached out to me on Twitter asking what they should do. I'm like, take the money and run. Even if he dominated the first and second stage, it's such a long race. I'd take the profit. I don't care. And he finished, 18th? So it worked out great.
That's freaking amazing. Hell of a job by you. Appreciate you sending out that advice. Hopefully several people took your advice and also cashed out. What other predictions did you have that paid off at Sonoma?
Well, thanks to Steve, William Byron over Ty Gibbs in the head-to-head model worked out for us. I mean, Ty had some issues, but still, Byron cashed out for us there. I personally live bet Larson, so that worked out for me too. So it was a good Sonoma. It was good road course racing.
And so coming into Iowa, we've never had the Cup cars there. The next gen's never been there. You got the Frankenstein Repave job. What in the hell? I mean, how do you help people try to make good, positive bets here?
Boy, it's going to be a tough weekend, but I think what we've seen is people that go do the tire tests, like Christopher Bell, like Kyle Larson. Yeah, they're going to be pretty fast. Also, some Xfinity Series experience there for Bell, so that could help him. But yeah, I think it's kind of like Sonoma's Repave a little bit. I think you wait for practice and qualifying and kind of see who's fast and go from there. I don't think you make any midweek bets here.
Do you so the Logano bet where you cash out before the race starts, is that something you might try since this is sort of a shot in the dark similar to Sonoma with the Repave? Do you maybe take I know it probably won't be that big of a payout, I'm not very sure, but if you take Larson or Bell and then cash out before once they go up there and grab the pole?
I think because Larson and Bell's odds won't be as long as 45-1, I don't think the sports books will give you such a good offer because they're hedging against that 45-1 odds. So
maybe one of their teammates.
Yeah, like Alex Bowman was about 40-1 at Sonoma, and I expect he's kind of been in that range all year, and we've been harping on him when he had a top 10 streak. It was like that's some good value if you want to bet him to win because when he does win in a Hendrick car, you're going to get a good payout. So I would definitely look for maybe where you think the book's got the line wrong and see if you can make a good cash out before the race even starts.
Gotcha, man. All right, Dirty Mo Doe drops every Thursday on our Dirty Mo Media platforms. You won't want to miss it. It's going to be a tough week for bettors, I think, going into Iowa, so you'll definitely want to tune in to hear what Tampa Tim's, Steve, and the rest of the gang have to say.
Sweet.
All right, it's time for the white flag here. Dropping Sunday night, the teardown with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi. On Monday, action's detrimental with Denny Hamlin and Door Bumper Clear got their show out on time. Congratulations to those guys. Dropping tomorrow, Speed Street with Connor Daly and Chase Holden. And Mario Andretti is our guest interview for this Wednesday. And then Thursday, DJD Reloaded and Dirty Mo Doe. Also, round 3 of the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge heads off to Iowa. It's going to be pretty interesting to see how everybody continues to move forward. A lot of interesting battles between drivers going into the third round. And maybe some guys are, Cinderella stories, kind of getting a little bit further into this thing. It'll be pretty interesting to see who can do what this weekend at Iowa. We'll be talking to you later. Great show. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I enjoyed it, Andrew, Dalton.